Welcome to today's Tech Huddle. We have Pat from Consumer Cellular's GrandPad. I actually got to see a demo of this. I don't know, what was that, Pat, 2 weeks ago? Something like that.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Great product, and I love the approach that you guys have taken with this thing. So I'm excited to have you on today. I'm gonna give everybody a few more minutes to join. For those of you that are on, I'm seeing a lot of familiar names, but if you've never been on a Tech Huddle, we do these once a week, typically. Tuesdays at 12, where we invite a new company on to do a demo and describe how their product or service is benefiting people with disabilities. As an attendee, you will be on mute just so that we can control the background noise. If you have questions for our presenter, go ahead and throw those into the chat box, which is down at the very bottom of the Zoom window. I'm going to keep an eye on that. And as I said, Pat, I'll just kind of jump in and interrupt you as I can to get the questions in. So we are also recording this, and then we archive these currently in our members area at disabilitycocoon.com. So if you want to go back and see some other ones, that would be the place that you could do that. I am showing about 12:02, so to be kind of cognizant of everybody's time. And I also hear my daughter and her two friends waking up, so it's going to get a little rowdy here at my house. With that, I'll turn it over to Pat, and let's take a look at the GrandPad. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm Pat Trank. I'm actually with Consumer Cellular. And Consumer Cellular got involved with the GrandPad in 2018. So let me give you a short story before I get into presenting here. So GrandPad started in 2014 by a father and son out of Orange, California. And what the challenge they were running into was, it was a mother and a grandmother in Iowa that they were having trouble communicating with traditional communication methods, Skype, FaceTime. And what they had created was the GrandPad in its initial form. And it's made, and you'll see it as I show it here, to be simple to use. And that's what helped them to be able to communicate with the mother and the grandmother. And in 2018, Consumer Cellular got involved and bought into the company and the marketing rights to consumers to provide it to consumers. And that's where we're at right now. So that's how I'm involved. So I'm going to go into the presentation I have here. Oops. Is that seeable or not?
Yes, we've got it. Looks great.
Oh, not anymore.
Not anymore, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep, we've got it again.
You got it now, good, okay. All right, so the GrandPad is a tablet. It's an actual product. It's an 8-inch tablet. And as you can see, it was made for seniors, being the name GrandPad. But what we're running into situations now is that we're seeing it being a solution for other disabilities, mild autism, mild cognitive issues, to name a few. So that's what I want you to keep in mind on this. While you'll see a lot of the presentation or most of the presentation is geared towards seniors, you might see it in other environments where it works as well. So the main reason it was created is, and it really is hitting hard today in this world with the pandemic, is to deal with isolation and loneliness. It is made to be simple for somebody who might have physical or cognitive impairments, as well as dealing with technical challenges. So I'm going to go through this very quick. What I'd like to do is show kind of a brief overview of the product of the GrandPad in the end. I'll show it live on the screen here.
Real quick, Pat.
Yes.
I think your audio is kind of coming in and out a little bit now. I'm not sure if that's happening for everyone or just for me, but I thought I should let you know.
Thank you. I thought the microphone might help, but it's not working. Okay, I'll try to get close to the screen here and see if it helps.
Okay, thanks.
Is that any better?
Sounds good right now. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. All right. So The idea behind the GrandPad is it's a tablet with big buttons, no need for passwords or logins, and it's secure so that it's controlled by typically like a family member who has the ability to add features and functionality that benefit that end user and control what they have capability on. So when I say safe, it's set up so it is somewhat locked up that the only real access can be done is by the family circle. So whoever's a contact in the system is the only way you can reach through the GrandPad. So I could talk about my situation personally. I have one from my parents, or I had. My parents have passed. But I was on there, my brothers and sisters and their nieces and nephews, and some of my nieces and nephews, and some of my parents' friends and family, our friends. And that was the only group that could get into the GrandPad. So it eliminated robocalls, spam solicitors. So they're not getting those calls, and they're only dealing with people that they want to speak with. It's simple, as I mentioned, the buttons, and I'll show that later, and it's secure. That you're only accessing areas that really pertain to what they would have access to or need to have access to. So you're eliminating potential viruses or downloading something you don't need to have access to. I mentioned the family involvement. So what we have is a family administrator, and it could be somebody from the family. It could be somebody from an organization that could handle this. And what they would do is help add contacts or companions, access to buttons like email, photos, articles, music, whatever the case you'd like to have the end user have, and all the activity that's on the GrandPad itself. Companions, and how the companions actually access the GrandPad is through their smartphone, either an Android or an iPhone. It's an application on the phone. You can download it through the App Store or through the Google Store. And
hey, Pat,
still happening?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt.
That's okay.
It is.
That's okay. I'm sorry it's happening. I don't know what to do here. I'll have to actually have that checked out. So I apologize.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just if you see the screen come on, I'm gonna be right here.
Yeah, and we can get it. I just wanted to let you know in case there was something that you could do, but I understand if that's just how it's going to be. So plow on through.
I'm sorry.
We can get the gist of it. So you're good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so the family circle. The nice part about that is that not only is the GrandPad users with a family circle, the GrandPad users seeing comments and photos. It's shared with all the family as far as if it's your nieces and nephews, you're seeing what's going on, even if you don't have the GrandPad through the app that you have on your smartphone. There's the app right there. Gives you an example that, and how to access. You can put comments on the photos. You can do audio to a photo, whatever the case. Some of the features and the buttons on the GrandPad, the main one that's probably used is the call button. And as I mentioned, you have the contact set up in the system, and that's who you would be able to call. And it's actually typically you have a photo of that contact, so you can just hit the photo to make the call. The email button is probably more a messaging button because it's not only email that you access in there, it could be texting as well. Photos, this is probably what I was using the most in the end with my father, who was limited in his cognitive ability. Was we were able to send photos to him. I'm in Oregon. He's in Texas, or was in Texas, and we were sending photos from my family, my kids, my brother's here as well, and his kids, so he could see what's going on day to day with his grandkids and his kids in Texas from the family that's in Oregon. Music button. This is coming to quite a bit with mild autism, as well as Alzheimer's and dementia. Is the ability to add music and have music in the GrandPad itself. The weather button, you get an idea of what's going on in the weather where your contacts are at, so you can actually have that as a conversation point. And another one that's been quite a bit used is the games button, and I'll show that. I'll show a little bit of that when I do a high-level demo on the product. camera button. It has some photos in there that you can either take photos or yourself on the GrandPad. Articles are in there. They're made to be lighthearted, so they're not something that's very in-depth, very easy to read and use. You can actually filter through the articles that are in the system. Look up button. I'm not going to go through that. It's basically to look up the dictionary or encyclopedia. Toolbox, some functionality. Help button. This is a nice piece because what we've run into is somebody that has a GrandPad. The one thing that also it's different than the traditional iPads or Surfaces or Microsoft tablets is that the help button is on the screen itself and it contacts our support directly at Consumer Cellular. So we're actually support for the GrandPad, not something where you have to go online or deal with the support on as it comes along. So we're available as needed. Transportation is a new button that was added that we have lift access as well. Consumer Cellular is the actual provider of this, and just a high level on Consumer Cellular. The benefit of it, of our communication, is we use AT&T and T-Mobile towers. We're a month-to-month company. We have a partnership with AARP, and we're one of the top-rated companies as far as JD Power's 8 years straight. Here's the cost of the GrandPad, $250 for the tablet. It's $40 a month. And that includes unlimited data, text, and talk, as well as the internet is on here as well. I didn't mention the internet, but I'll show you that as well. Some of the key features: font. You get a stylus with the product, and you also get a case. I sent this PowerPoint presentation to Dustin so we could share to attendees. Here's some links that are of value to show you some other information on where the GrandPad is used and some other feedback from the industry in regards to how they've seen it and the value they've seen. All right, here's my contact information. I didn't have that at the beginning. I have it at the end. If you have any questions or need anything, please contact me. I'm really kind of overseeing the product, and I have a group that I work with directly in our GrandPad team, and I'm available to help with any questions you might have. All right. Having said that, any questions this so far, Dustin?
No, not seeing any questions yet. As attendees, please feel free to throw any questions in the chat. I'm excited to see this thing again.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hope it goes better with the sound than what I've done so far.
No, it's okay. We're getting it, so you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
All right. All right. So here's the screen. Can you see that, or is that?
We're still seeing you. I think you need to position the camera down.
Oh, God, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, that looks very good.
Let me get rid of something here. Okay. How's that? Is that okay?
Yeah, that looks great. Perfect.
All right, very good. All right. So as you can see, here's how you get around the screen itself. Big buttons, so no logins or passwords needed. The first button is the internet. So the way this is set up is you put links into the system of what you want to have access to. And what's in here, as you can see, here's a YouTube, so you can actually have access to YouTube, Facebook. It does not do video as far as like Netflix or Hulu, but it does have capabilities to do basic internet functions. Browsing is not part of it. And part of the reason is to keep it simple. So all those are set up so the end user, when they have it, they just have to hit the button they want to get into. They don't even have to actually type in a link at all. The call button, as I mentioned, all these are contacts that are set up in the system. So here's an example right here. If I want to call Jenny, I hit call Jenny. I have the ability to make a video call, a phone call, and it's all set up in the system. So when they pick up, they're picking it up through the app on their smartphone. They can, as a video call or a phone call. Phone call typically is if you have a phone that doesn't have that capability. As far as doing a FaceTime call. Transportation is Lyft. the email button. So if I go into email, I can compose an email to anybody I want. I can send it to all the contacts I have at once. If I want to email somebody, I can actually type the message in, or I can actually speak it in as well. If I want to type the message, it pops up a keyboard. There's your functionality right there. Okay. There we go. Excuse me. It's hard. I'm doing this upside down, so bear with me.
Looks like you've done it upside down a few times. You're doing pretty good.
I'm trying. I'm like you. I'm a little slow this morning on a Tuesday after a 3-day weekend. So, all right. So
you're the best of us. Yeah.
So this is the part I actually saw the most value in for me personally. As I mentioned, this is my father right here, actually. So when we go to visit him in the end, so what was happening, he's in a senior living community in Austin, Texas. I'll personalize this. So as you know, they were on lockdown. So what was happening is this is how we were getting updates on how he was doing. He was sending photos to us. And if I want to make a phone call, let me get back in there. I can just go back where I was at before and call him directly on the GrandPad. But on the photos, I have the ability to add comments. I can read comments. And what also happens is when you have the GrandPad, it sits in a cradle that charges it, but it also kicks into a slideshow when it's sitting after a while. So this is my mother and her family. So what happened for them, it was a nice feature because, as I mentioned, they were isolated in their home or their room at the senior living community. And this is what was showing as they were sitting there in their bed. They had the ability to have a slideshow going. That's my family right here. And see what had been sent to them on a regular basis. In a perfect world, you're sending daily updates to them. And actually, there are situations that if you have a young grandchild that's playing a soccer game or a game, they can actually send videos of that to them as well.
Real quick question for you, Pat. Somebody had asked, what is the battery life like?
Battery life typically lasts 2 to 3 days, but when it's not in use, you put it in the cradle so it's charging constantly. So I've never run into a situation. The problem that we ran into is if my father forgot to put it into the cradle, it could run out of battery after a couple of days. But you just put it back in the cradle and it'll recharge. So the ideal solution is leave it in the cradle. It's wireless, so the cradle, you don't have to have a wire. You just pop it right in there, and you're fine. You're good to go.
And then another question is in the admin portal, does the admin have the ability to monitor Facebook or other social media activity on the tablet to make sure that the person is, making safe choices and good choices as they're doing that?
Yes. So I could tell you the other thing we do is I have nieces and nephews and my kids as well, that you can tie Facebook directly into the GrandPad for their contacts. So it would automatically go in, but we haven't done that because let's just say they don't want to have everything that they put in Facebook sent to their grandparents. Yeah. So they select the photos they want to send. So you can tie Facebook and Instagram for the companion or the contact. For them, yeah, you can filter it out. Honestly, in the end, I turned off the internet on my parents because they were not able to use it. So you have capability on it. That's the idea behind it, is to make it as simple for them, but yeah. Go ahead.
And then the other question, which I think so pictures uploaded to the GrandPad are done by family members that are using the app on their phone, right? And they just upload the photos that they want them to see.
Yeah, let me, for the sake of showing you, hopefully this will work here. So yeah, there's the app right here. I don't know if you can see it. So it's,
we can see it.
So right there, I click in and I see all the photos that are in there. So these are photos I upload, and it's just like you'd upload. So when I go into photos on my phone, just like you have the ability to upload it to an email or to a text, I have it set up so GrandPad is one of the options in there. So I just click on that and it's automatically sends it directly to the GrandPad. That make sense?
It does, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and the nice part, I mean, I'll tell you some of the things that we found out about it. I think I should enough of that. I think the best thing is to, unless you guys want to see more, is how it engage the rest of the family as well. So what ends up happening is I'll give you an example. My nephew's getting married. So he started sending up his engagement photos. So what happens is he's in Oregon, but my kids are in California now. We have family in Texas. So what's happening is everybody's sharing the information, and you could add comments. They see the comments and they're sending comments back. So it's become a communication piece, not only for the GrandPad user, but the rest of the people that are in that family circle.
And the greatest thing about it, I think, is that it's taking all of those connections and simplifying the user interface for the senior, or the person that isn't able to, do that through other typical ways, or for a person who doesn't.
That's exactly right. I mean, our average age is probably 75 of the users, because honestly, if you're able to use an iPad or a tablet, standard tablet you can buy at a Best Buy or wherever, it's probably a little bit too simple for you. This is, but the idea behind this is this is for somebody that has trouble with smartphones, iPads, whatnot, and it's made so they can still communicate. And it is it's worked well in those situations. I don't see it adds value to somebody that's still pretty technologically savvy and can use an iPad or whatnot. I mean, that's
yeah. And then I'm assuming, and you may have said this, I apologize. One of the questions I had was, I'm assuming that you can adjust the number of those icons or options that the person can, interact with. So you could disable the social media buttons, or you could disable the email buttons, and it could be just used for communication, right? So you can control the menu of items that the person has access to.
You have the ability to control a lot of the functionality. I didn't show games, and I'll just talk about it conceptually. So some of the games in there are pretty simple. It's like memory games, card games, solitaire, bingo's in there, word scrambles, whatnot. Really games to keep people engaged as well as mentally challenged and give them something to work on staying as lucid as possible. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can control those things, and those are typically done by the FA, the family administrator. We call it an FA. I'd call it an administrator or an editor or whatever the case. That's the person. I did it. My sister did it for my parents. And when we found it might be challenging for them to use, or it was something that really didn't add any value, they weren't going to use it, we just took it off to make it as simple as possible.
And we just had a question come in kind of somewhat related to that. Can you adjust and give access to like the games app just during certain times, like after work or on the weekends, and can you time it like that, or would you have to manually go in and do that each time?
That's a great question. It's the first time I've had that question, but it's a great question. It can lead me into something else. So weekly, we have an IT team that deals with updates and revisions and enhancements. And part of that team, they have a group called GrandPad Advisors. It's about 15 to 20 seniors that they use as a user focus group to give feedback on whether these features functionality would work. Probably the biggest one, and I'm surprised I haven't heard from this, is that voice command or voice recognition is not in there at this time. That's something that we're looking to address and add in the future.
Actually, that was a question, and I just unintentionally didn't ask it. So
I like the laugh. I heard the laugh back there. Yeah, it's a great one. And honestly, it probably comes into play more and more with disability and vision issues. And so that's one that's come up quite a bit. But it's not in there now. the answer I have is it's something we continue to look at, and we have focus groups and an IT team that is continually updating the product.
That's great. Any last questions for Pat? Please throw them in the chat. Let me do a quick run through here, make sure I didn't miss anybody else's questions. I think it's a great device, especially like you'd said, that for those folks that just want a simple way to communicate and stay connected. I'm appreciative that you have all made that choice to keep the UI as simple as possible for people. I think that was a great move.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dustin. What I came on, I was in the auto industry, and about 8 months ago, I got involved with the GrandPad personally and decided to switch industries to come handle this for consumer cellular and marketing the GrandPad specifically to organizations and really a lot with senior living communities. So to your point, I've had a lot of likes with the senior living communities, but what they've also asked, can you add this? Can you add this? And as you mentioned, and I appreciate the stance from our developers, is once you start adding features and functionality, you get away from keeping a simple and safe, secure tablet as it is right now.
I'm assuming it's a fairly sturdy tablet.
Very, very sturdy. Yes, it comes with a case, protective case. Yeah, I don't see any issues, and on and off doesn't come into play. It has those buttons, but they're covered by the case. Really, once the other thing, the ideal setup is, and we did it, and if it can be done, is when you order a GrandPad, the FA goes in and personalizes it before it's sent to that end user. So by the time the end user gets it, whether it be a grandparent or your parents or whoever the case, it's not just a GrandPad, it's their GrandPad. It might be personalized with photos that are important to them, that are special, music, games, whatever the case. And that's how you can control it. And that's ideally how we like to do it. So it just goes directly to them, but when they get it, when they open it up, it's already set up that it's already personalized for them.
Oh, that's great. One question that did come in as you were talking there, can you add other apps to it, like Bard for digital audiobooks or anything?
You can add internet sites, but what you're asking is a great question. It's come up quite a bit, especially in these times with doing video calls and whatnot, or Zoom. It's getting away from what we just talked about, Dustin. We have decided to not do that, to keep it somewhat closed, to keep it simple, safe, and secure. Great.
All right. Well, any last questions for Pat? I'm showing we have about 60 seconds left. Great timing today. The audio actually ended up being very, very good here at the end. So
I don't know.
Who knows what was happening in Zoom world?
Yeah. Hey, so Dustin, if questions come up, you've got my email.
I do.
You've got my phone number. You're welcome to call me. I'm here to help out. It's a great cause, and I think it's a good fit in those certain circumstances. So
it's a perfect fit for the folks with cognitive disabilities. So happy to have you on here today. If anybody that is attending would like a copy of his slides, just email me and I can get those over to you. I did share your email address in the chat, Pat, so everybody should have that. And yeah, really appreciate you jumping on and taking some time to do this.